Hello everybody, it's me, GhostCritic, and while I'm having my little hiatus from my comic book review video uploads, I've been kind of thinking about different types of videos I can put up because I still want to do comic book videos. And one of the things that invariably used to happen, whether it was on my Wednesday's New Comic Book Day video or on my comic book review video uploads, were people asking me, am I reading this? Am I reading that? Have you read this? Have you read that? And while I obviously answered them in the comments section, I just thought I would do a kind of general overview of everything that is on my pull list right now. I've broken it down into publishing houses, and it's always kind of like, I go to these kind of videos with a certain sense of trepidation because I don't want to know how many comic books are actually on my pull list, because I know it's going to be too many. And I counted and it was 46 titles are currently on my pull list. Now that might seem a huge amount to some people, that might seem a minuscule amount to others, but for me I'm like going, crap, there's a lot on there. But to be fair, there are kind of two reasons, I guess, why there are so many right now. One is obviously the Marvel Secret Wars event that's going on, and all its kind of satellite tie-in Battle World issues, which are mini-series. They're eventually going to go. So that's kind of bulked up my my pull list titles right now. And two, I did notice as I was putting these all together, Image are kind of clever, and I wonder if they've done this on purpose, because obviously, as you know, if you're collecting Image titles, they do have this tendency to take a hiatus, whether it's a couple of months, whether it's 3 or 4 months, but you kind of have a break from them for a certain amount of time. But at the same time, they're putting out all these new #1s, and you kind of go, oh, well, that's not coming out for a while, I might as well pick this up. But eventually the other one's going to come back, and then you've got, you know, 2, 3, 4 times as many comics as you first envisaged having. So I think that's why my comic pull list is so large at the moment. Now, what I'm going to do, as I said, I've broken it down into publishing houses, and I'm just going to show you the issue, the latest issue of that title. So, let's crack on! And we begin with Archie Comics. To be fair, I've never actually owned an Archie comic in my life. This is my first one. It's this kind of modern day reimagining of Archie. And if you'd seen my Wednesday video and read the comments, and I've commented on other people's videos as well, I actually really enjoyed this. It is a kind of MTV awkward Beverly Hills 90210 kind of affair, but using a classic comic book character. I don't know what kind of old school Archie Comics fans will think of this, but I like the modern fresh take on it. You don't need to have read Archie before. This is kind of like, I guess, a brand new start. It's by Mark Waid, it's got by art by Fiona Staples. It should be a no-brainer, and I think it is. Boom Studios. I've got 2 titles currently from them. We have The Woods here by James Tynion, a kind of sci-fi abduction story where a whole school is transported to a rather dangerous planet. I really enjoyed this right at the beginning. It lulled a little, but now it's kind of gone into the future somewhat, kind of moved time ahead very quickly, and we're a year ahead now. It's interesting to see how they've kind of all settled down on this planet, and basically thoughts of getting back home have just disappeared. The other one, which was a brand new #1, it's a 4-issue miniseries, but I am certainly putting Strange Fruit on this pull list of mine. Mark Waid, J.G. Jones, the artwork is stunning. It's set kind of on the backdrop of black slavery and the kind of lynch mobs. But there has been this kind of twist on it. It's very kind of origins of Superman-esque, with a kind of meteorite spaceship falling down, and we have what appears to be a black superhero. It's kind of heavy in some ways when you first start reading it, because it feels very historical in its aspect, but then it throws in this kind of superhero-esque storyline, and I'm very intrigued to see what our two creators here are going to do with this. And we're on to DC now, and I actually didn't think I was still getting as many DC titles as I first thought, and I'm a bit concerned about the quality of some of them, so they may be dropped soon, but this is currently what I'm getting. A new #1 from DC, Dr. Fate. I really enjoyed this. I like the character. I've collected it kind of in dribs and drabs over the time, but this was a brand new #1 from DC in their kind of influx of DCU, as in YOU, and I kind of dug it, so I'm going to keep on going with this and see where it goes. We have Midnighter issue #2 here. This is a fairly brand new series from DC. I've always loved the character of Midnighter. I like the Authority and all those storylines that have been through kind of many publishing houses. And this Midnighter is a spin-off, obviously, from kind of Stormwatch and the Authority. And I just dig the kind of all-out violent, action-orientated vibe that this book's going for. Over on Vertigo, I've got a few titles still going. Kurt Busiek, Astro City. I love the kind of one-shot stories that Kurt does on these. Not so much the longer ones, which is strange, because his work on the Image titles, like Autumnland's Tooth and Claw, which is obviously an ongoing series I'm thoroughly enjoying. But in Astro City, I just don't dig as well the longer story arcs, but Astro City I've been collecting for, you know, back issue wise for quite some time. Love the stories, love the universe that he has created. It's taking its sweet darn time to come out, but Neil Gaiman's returned to his probably what he's most famous for is The Sandman. This is The Sandman Overture, which is kind of a prequel to the epic Vertigo series. Artwork by J.H. Williams, which is just gorgeous to look at. It's just taking its sweet darn time to come out and finish, with one more issue to go, and we hopefully will find out how and why the Sandman kind of was captured in the first place. Another comic that's taking its sweet darn time to come out. I am waiting for the last issue, 150 of Fables. It's planned for this month, but it's almost over and I've yet to see it appear. But Fables has always been a firm favourite. I think I've turned on quite a lot of people to this title. They've started collecting it in trade. I've seen people picking the singles up. I know Tim didn't like the reveal of the kind of big master villain of the series way back. And he's explained why, and I completely understand, but for me, because I didn't know that at the time, it was still an exciting reveal, and I've loved Fables from the moment I started collecting it. I've only got a few issues. I think it's about 3, maybe 2 or 3 more issues so I can complete the series. Of course, issue 1 is one of those issues. Supernaturalness in Gotham. It is Gotham by Midnight. Really enjoyed this. It's got one of my favourite DC characters in the Spectre, though we don't really see him that often, but Jim Corrigan trying to keep the anger and aggression of the Spectre down. And we've just had our new artist on here, which was actually, I wasn't overly offended. No, that's not giving them their due. Obviously Ben Temple-Smith's art on this title was fantastic and fitted the book perfectly, but this change of artist still kind of captures the supernatural dark feel of the book, so still really enjoying Gotham by Midnight. Of course, it wouldn't be DC if I wasn't picking up a couple of Bat titles. We've got Batman Detective Comics, which I personally have had a bit of a rocky ride with. It's had its ups and downs. And this is one of the books that I'm thinking, if this doesn't get any better, it could be for the chopping block. It hasn't helped, obviously, that I'm not really digging this Jim Gordon in the kind of Robo-Bat suit. It just isn't for me, and the story on top just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me, I'm afraid. Obviously Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Batman is on my DC pull list. Again, it's dealing with the whole Jim Gordon Batman, Batsuit, Bat Robot, whatever. But it's still very nice to look at. We've also already had the reintegration of Bruce Wayne here. We'll see how long this suit lasts. Fingers crossed, not for long. And we move on to Marvel. This is probably one of the, well, it's the second biggest part of my pull list. Obviously, as I said at the top of the video, it's very much to do with the fact that we've got the Secret Wars Battle World tie-ins and the main book, obviously. But first, I'm going to show you the books that are kind of outside that domain. We're kicking off from their kind of sister publishing house, I guess, Icon, and it's Powers. I've been collecting Powers in back issues for quite some time now. Love the series, love the idea of a kind of police department that deals with superhero crimes. I still yet to watch the TV show. Haven't heard a great deal about it, but hopefully I'll find it somehow. It'll probably be out on DVD and I'll buy it then. I've got Star Wars from Jason Aaron and John Cassidy, and I'm kind of having the same problem as I did when Brian Wood did his take on Star Wars over at Dark Horse, where the idea of collecting a Star Wars comic appealed to me more than what was actually inside, and I felt that I needed to be much more of a die-hard Star Wars fan, or at least be a little bit more knowledgeable about the characters and the history, and I'm kind of getting lost again with this. We'll see how it goes, because I'm enjoying it as an entertaining kind of nostalgic romp, but apart from that, they seem to be playing around a lot with the actual kind of characters, histories, and I guess the canon of the Star Wars history. I don't know. Moving on, I'm saying this is on my pull list. We've only had issue 0 out. It's the Uncanny Humans. I'm guessing we're going to see issue 1 once the whole Secret Wars Battle World has finished, which probably won't be till about September, October time. But I've really wanted to collect an Inhumans comic for some time. I kind of missed out on the Inhuman title. I've been picking them up as and when I see them in kind of back issue bins, but looking forward to having that come out as a regular series. And now on to the whole Secret Wars Battle World event. Obviously the main title, Secret Wars. I'm absolutely loving this. It has everything I used to love about Marvel, and I think this is back to its kind of best way of dealing with an event. They do events year after year, and they've been kind of uninteresting to me. They've kind of flubbered about. Is that a word? My last favourite Marvel event was always Secret Invasion, but this is on par with that. Moving on, I'm going to be putting Spider Island on my pull list. The first issue came out this week. It's interesting because I'm getting a bit confused about the whole concept of the kind of Secret Wars Battle World now, because they seem to be starting to be more like what if books rather than Doom has kind of made this patchwork of planets. Because this basically is if Spider Island didn't end the way it did in the main Marvel 616. There wasn't a kind of a planet out there, as far as I know, that had all these versions. It was still fantastic read. I loved it. Seeing all the different versions of our well-known superheroes as spiders was still fun to read and entertaining, but the actual concept of Battle Worlds and Secret Wars seems to have been kind of bent out of shape, and some people I feel are cheating with the rules somewhat. This also goes for E for Extinction. I did actually really enjoy this. The artwork by, who was it, Villalbios. I think he's trying to invoke the whole Frank Quietly style, but giving it its own kind of twist. But still, I really kind of enjoyed this, despite the fact that it has one of my least favourite X-Men characters in here, Beak. Bit more Inhumans Atelian Rising. I've really enjoyed this. It's a great idea of this kind of bar where the people from all over Battleworld can come and just, you know, socialise without the kind of outbreak of fisticuffs, etc. But deep below, there's the kind of rebel alliance, I guess, trying to overthrow Doom. Just for shits and giggles, it's Deadpool's Not So Secret Secret Wars. Deadpool's Secret Wars. I just enjoy the fact that this book is kind of taking the original Secret Wars event and just throwing Deadpool in the mix and basically messing things up, but kind of still staying true to the original. Surprise like for me, it's Masters of Kung Fu. I missed picking up issue 3 this week. That will be rectified very soon, but I actually really enjoyed this. Again, it's another sense of kind of a rebel alliance being forged, and Shang-Chi being drawn into that unwillingly. Planet Hulk. I love the way they are creating all these crazy Hulk-type gamma-radiated characters. It's very imaginative, very creative, and throwing in, you know, Devil Dinosaur in there it just makes it equally as fun. Another surprise like from me was the Infinity Gauntlet, throwing in kind of the Novas in here. It looks as though Thanos, our main villain in here, is going to be an unlikely ally for a while, but I'm really enjoying that. Marvel Zombies, that's on my pull list too. Another one that I was surprised I liked as much as I did, but I just kind of, it's got this kind of like dry, dark wit about it. And I'm interested to see how this will all fit in by the end of Secret Wars. Finally, for my Marvel pile, it's Weird World. As I've said in previous videos, this was actually the only Secret Wars Battle World tie-in that I pre-ordered, and wow, was it worth it. The artwork alone by Mike Del Mundo is worth the price tag on here. It was just gorgeous, trippy, surreal, and just go out and buy it, yeah? And finally, this image stack. Yes, everyone is image crazy at the moment. So many great titles coming out of the publishing house at the moment, and much more to come, which is why it has so many titles on my pull list. Again, as I said at the top of this video, I don't know whether Image are doing this quite cleverly, but they do put a lot of their titles on hiatus, introduce us to more new ones, hence a big stack. So, one again that is on hiatus is Goners. This is kind of a legacy, supernatural, fun, ghosts and ghoulies, monsters, hammer horror type affair, with kind of bright colours, making it exciting, and I guess family friendly. It is about kids after all. New out this week, Brandon Graham's latest work. It is 8 House issue #1, and it's Arclight. I believe these are going to be like mini-series that all tie in together. Not a great fan of the art style, but the story has me very interested. Kurt Busiek shows up again, here this time at Image. It is Autumn Lands, Tooth and Claw. We've just had the final issue of the first story arc, and what a great end to the first story arc. I love this. Matt Fraction and Christian Ward's Odyssey, psychedelic surrealness, sci-fi, crazy nonsense going on here, based on Homer's The Odyssey, but gender bending. All the characters, all the male characters are female and all the female characters are male. But great stuff, visual treat for the eye, with Matt Fraction keeping pretty close to the actual kind of classic poem prose that it's based on. Been on hiatus for a long time. Bitch Planet. We've got DeConnick and Delandro with their kind of sci-fi feminist take on the kind of exploitation movies, I guess, of the 70s. We've not seen this for a while. Where is it? Where is it? Best sci-fi title currently out is Rick Remender's Black Science. I love this from the very first issue. It kind of had a kind of pulpy, old school feel to it, but still feeling very fresh and modern. And well, Matteo Scalera's art on this book, oh my god, will that man please stop being so bloody awesome. I mean, it's fantastic. Just find these, get the trades, brilliant book. Jonathan Hickman's East of West, started slow burner but has built this huge gorgeous world full of intrigue and politics, violence. Again, another firm sci-fi favourite from me. Have to say, this is my favourite book currently out from any publishing house. Deadly Class, Rick Remender, Wes Craig, is it Daniel Lowridge on colours, but this has just been outstanding from issue 1. I don't know whether it's because it's set in the 80s and that was kind of my teenage informative years, and I kind of get a lot out of all the kind of little Easter eggs that he throws in there. But the storytelling, the pace, the fast moments, the slow moments, they all come at the right time and just make this book outstanding. Warren Ellis and Jason Howard's Trees just came back from a little hiatus. Another kind of very much world building story, very character driven. We still have very little information on these kind of alien invasion of these pillars. Hopefully Warren Ellis will start explaining a little bit more about that very soon, but still a great book. Jason Howard's artwork on here is really great too. The the crime noir super team that is Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Their current title, The Fade Out, retelling stories from Hollywood's kind of golden era, with all its sleaze and racism and communism and covering up scandals. It just reads and looks amazing, very true to that era. Both Brubaker and Phillips throw in real life characters of the time, and it just feels very, very authentic. Sci-fi horror from Grant Morrison and Chris Burnham. Another kind of psychedelic acid trip of a book. What is real, what is not. Very kind of claustrophobic at times. Just a joy to read if you're a fan of like the horror genre with a sci-fi tilt to it. We've got Birthright by Williamson, work by Bresson. I've kind of, I don't know, I have my doubts of the longevity of Birthright. The concept is interesting, this idea that a boy was kind of kidnapped or lost and found himself in this fantasy world, comes back to the real world, a grown man, and something evil has tagged along behind him. But I've said this previously, I kind of just feel like it's being written in the hope that it will get a TV show. More madness in the realms of fantasy, and here we have Shutter. This started again very strong, with Joe Keatinge and Leila Del Duca creating this wonderful world full of anthropomorphic characters alongside your kind of human characters. It all started crazy chaotic at the start. It was kind of throw everything in and see what sticks. It kind of calmed down a little, but still had elements of the kind of surreal and imaginative, which they are both still creating to this day. With this title, who knows what's to come at the moment. Kate Christopher, the main character, female character here, has kind of lost her memory, but it's kind of eking back in, and we'll see what goes on there. Continuing on, it's spread post-apocalyptic kind of winter world gore horror. I wondered from the cover of this if we'd moved on in time a little bit and this was our little baby grown up, but no, we're still in main time. This, again, it's an acquired taste. It's not pushing any huge comic book storytelling boundaries, but if you're a fan of things like The Thing and Alien and kind of post-apocalyptic worlds, this probably will be the book for you. Another book that's on hiatus, the last we saw was this one-shot special. It's 5 Ghosts, one of my all-time favourite Image titles. The Chris Monaghan, Frank Barbier, what can I say about them? They have created such a great character, with twists and turns, very interesting backstory that you just want to know more and more about. Another one that I've highly recommended since its inception. Just find these trade singles and just lap up the kind of pulpy boys' adventure storylines. Morning Glories, Nick Spencer's long-running kind of TV show Lost-esque storyline of a bunch of kids at a very special school called Morning Glories Academy. It's one of those books that I just haven't a clue really what's going on half the time. Thank God for the synopses at the back and pointing out things you may have missed while you were reading it, and how it links back to past issues because it goes forward in time, back in time, all around in time. But it's one of those books that I've just got to know how it ends. And apparently finishing at issue 60, so we've probably got about a year's worth of Morning Glories left to lap up. Saga issue 30 just came out this week. We have had so much fun with Saga. Glorious title, highly imaginative when it came up, highly shocking when it first came out. With 30 issues under its belt, there were obviously going to be lulls in the storytelling, where it kind of, I felt it took a bit longer to tell a story than was necessary. But just as you start to despair, Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples wallops you round the head and wakes you back up to the fantastic awesomeness that is Saga. Been on hiatus for a while is the dark fantasy Umbral, very Lord of the Ring-esque, which is why I kind of liked it as much as I did, despite the fact this is another kind of Image book that is not as great as it possibly could be. Again, not pushing any huge boundaries, just telling a kind of a slightly above average fantasy story. Never actually spoken about this in any of my reviews. I picked up a huge stack of them in a bargain bin and caught up with all the rest of the issues, and then started putting on my pull list. Of course, it's Lazarus, Rucker and Lark, the mainstay creative team here. I love the idea of a world, kind of post-apocalyptic world, where certain families rule the world, and they are kind of like the royalty that we have in present day, and then we have their underlings, and then we have, I think, what they call the waste, which is basically just you and me. We don't stand a chance. Again, it's full of intrigue and politics and subterfuge and double dealings. A really, really good title, and I highly recommend anyone picking up Lazarus. Nearly there, folks. David Lapham's Stray Bullets, his latest mini-series Sunshine and Roses, that kind of gritty slice of life storytelling that he loves to do, often very depressing but great storytelling that I really just can't get enough of. Another Remender title, another kind of sci-fi-esque storyline, but this time instead of in space, we're underwater. It's low, and oh my god, who is it? Oh, Ticini, of course, on artwork here, just kind of invokes and gives us these great underwater landscapes, I guess you'd call them, and his artistry in creating just like the costumes of these characters, them in itself are amazing to look at, and obviously the story is incredibly interesting, as the population of the world have had to basically live underwater because the air is no longer breathable on the surface, but a satellite has landed on Earth's surface, and it's up to this our female protagonist here to get to that satellite and hopefully have found another world for the human civilization to go and live on above ground. And finally, from Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen, it's Descender, another sci-fi series from Image. They are kind of so well known for their great sci-fi titles. This is very different and stands out a great deal from the rest of them, just in the style that it's shown, with the kind of painted artwork. It's kind of muted, almost blank canvas. There aren't these sharp, clean edges, and I just think it suits the book and the world that Jeff Lemire and Nguyen are creating perfectly. So Descender, another great book. And that's my pull list, so you no longer have to ask, are you reading this? Are you reading that? Hope you enjoyed my pull list, and I'll be back soon with a video, who knows what about. I am still working on my top 50 favourite comic books. It's a struggle, man. It's a struggle, but I'll get there. Until next time, bye bye.